So, hello, good morning, everybody, to this first thematic session in this webinar series of today. I'm Josef Kaltwasser. I'm going to moderate that session. I will start with a quick wrap-up of the way we operate these webinars here, and then I will introduce the speaker and hand over. You have the opportunities to put questions into the questions and answers box, which you find in the bottom of the screen. And there's already a lot of discussions and questions and answers going on after the last session I've seen. I, as a moderator, will check the questions. If I can answer them directly, I will give you an answer. If not, I will collect them. And at the end of the presentation, we can raise it with the speaker. And the speaker in this session now is Vries, who is a well-known name to everybody who ever stumbled over DATEX in the last 20 plus years. He is the chairman of the technical management group of the DATEX organization, which is currently run as a program support action in the CEF program of the European Commission. And he therefore is not only chairing the technicians, he's also the guy that is in charge of discussing with a strategic level, with a strategic group, about the strategic aspects of deploying DATEX II. And that is actually the topic of this session today here. His title is DATEX II as a strategic choice. So he will tell us what decisions do you need today and how can DATEX II play a role in this wonderful world of dynamic evolution, digitalization, and so on. So please, Bart, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Josef, for this kind introduction. DATEX II as a strategic choice. We face very often the discussion and the challenge, why should I use DATEX II? And well, it was quite clearly expressed in our kickoff session before, that it is not just a matter of you have to, but more and more people say that they see the benefit of cooperation and collaboration and having a joint language to use. And why is this joint language so important in the ITS ecosystem? We are already quite acquainted to some kind of standardization in the traffic and travel domain, because we use standards for road signage and traffic regulation rules to a certain extent. And of course, we have local deviations from it, or local specializations that are not managed locally, not internationally, but everyone knows that a round sign with a red circle and a digit in it means that we have a maximum speed. And the blue sign with a word on it means that we have we are entering an inhabited zone that has its own regulations as well. And we need the same type of standard in the digital arena, because if we don't, it will become a mess. We don't talk the same language, and we don't understand each other. We need a lot of conversions and a lot of translators. And therefore we have DATEX II, and DATEX II is the e-language for road traffic and travel related information. It's not only about traffic information and traffic management centers, but it is growing in scope, as explained before, in terms of functional domains and also in terms of operations that are supported. We cover all road networks. We came from the motorway network, but the urban and the interurban non-motorway roads are becoming more and more relevant in a full ITS service deployment as well. And we keep that into account. And DATEX II is like a natural language. It is having a grammar, and it does have a dictionary. So you are able to construct things with a predefined meaning, so and assemble them to a message or a service that you want to convey. An important asset of DATEX II is that it is maintained by the stakeholder community. And this means that we have the operational deployers in the traffic engineering domain, in the technical IT domain, and also on the meta layer in our requirement engineering. And we have them on the table and we discuss with the people that really are going to use the standard. And that makes it a valuable contribution to the ecosystem. And then, of course, we do standardization, and we do that in 2 or 3 steps actually nowadays. We have the so-called status of DATEX II proposed standard, which has no formal status. And then we go to SAN machinery, where we have technical standards, and we have or ISO, because some of the items have a global scope, because it has been started in ISO already before with similar topics, and that's mainly in the domain of exchange, so the technical transfer of the data from A to B. And there we have 2 layers. We have technical standards and we have European standards, which have a more mature status. And like with the traffic regulations in Europe, we also allow and enable local additions to what is available in the standard. And these additions are created in a standardized way, of course. And that really contributes to the interoperability in the entire ecosystem and the usability of the standards for your specific use case. We maintain a wide liaison and outreach with the community around us, as varying from the European Commission to the Polish urban network community, the IDEX project for apologies. The IDEX project for the charging and alternative fuel provision, EPA, the parking association. We have typed collaboration with CEDAR, the road operators. And as you see, most stakeholder communities are, in our view, relevant, and we try to connect to them. DATEX II, the evolvement and developments in the recent past and in the near future. We have a traditional view that is now more than 25 years ago. That's when I started as a junior. We have a traffic control center, and that is has a direct connection to the driver. But in the meantime, we have a lot of actors that have come active in between the vehicle and the traffic control center. And we've seen that the relation is not a linear anymore, but it is now a circle. And once we had the view that the traffic flow was going in the circle and not between the actors, but from only in steps. But with recent developments, we see that all actors in the value pie, as we call it, have now data interaction with others. And that's not going to change stronger. That's going to grow very, very fast in the coming years. And this gives us a lot of challenges, not only in terms of technology and data exchange, but also in terms of technical challenges in processing all this data. That's not the scope of DATEX, but we want to harmonize and manage the interoperability of all these data transfers that you see in this picture. And we do already offer a wide variety. We come from traffic situations with the accidents, the incidents, traffic disturbances, details for vehicles, etc., etc. And with version 3.1, the traffic status was also coming to the version 3 maturity level of DATEX, with the traffic flow and travel time, weather data, especially related to road, of course, detector data. And on top of that, we have the traffic and travel management related settings, which are the VMS settings, the parking information, which was already there, but it is under development again. And we have added the urban specific information on traffic light, green phase information, and traffic management plans in the urban context. And we have some work in progress. We have the revision of parking and the refueling and recharging infrastructure and the actual availability in relation with tariff and pricing. And a major development currently on the way is the traffic regulations digitalization. And a short thing about that, traffic regulations is about everything that's dynamically changing the way a road may be used different from its default usage. So a motorway, we don't model things to tell that something is a motorway, but we do give the traffic regulation order capability and the legal context of this regulation, this traffic regulation order that changes the maximum speed. Okay, so what is DATEX II version 3 then in more functional perspective? It is a toolbox, and it is a toolbox that is ready to support the provision of detailed traffic and travel information and traffic management measure information. But that's not the only thing. It's also about joint traffic management operation. So that's an additional hook of DATEX II. We support open data technology and information concepts. So it's not only about one-to-one known and managed information exchange. We are also creating open data, using open data technologies in order to support the reuse of public data in an open data environment. One of the major complaints of DATEX II version 2 was that it is one big, huge package, and we've split that. We've created functional packages that is now addressing the parts of the standard in a coherent way. And we've completely separated exchange. So the exchange of data, when we're talking really about sending it from A to B or collecting it from B to A, is now not part of the entire model anymore, but it is in a different standard. And an important thing is that we've created JSON support and ASN.1 support. And that's really a useful thing for the people that are more interested in JSON technology than web services based on XML. And we think that this contributes a lot to the technical development in the IT domain. And of course, we've created the profiles, and the profiles are per use case. And I'm not going to elaborate on the profiles because we have a special session on that managed by Joseph later this day. But it is a really valuable asset of DATEX II from now on. Well, DATEX II, it has been mentioned, is it has an important role in the NAP ecosystem, the national access points that are there, and they are created based on the regulations from the EU. And we have a few of them, and they are all aiming at enabling the traveler to make his trips easier and more efficient, independent from the modality he wants to use and whether he owns a vehicle himself. Well, this type of development is giving us some additional challenges, and it also stipulates the reason why we have standards and why we need standards. If you look at this circle, you see it divided into around 30 pieces, and this pie is the total set of data categories in the delegated regulations of the EU. And all these data categories address to some extent one of the services that are relevant for this traveler in the picture on the left. And all these data categories, they have things in common. They all share location information or address information, or at least where you are and where you want to go. But also tariff and payment is involved in a lot of the standards. And vehicle characteristics are involved in a certain amount of the standards. And because of that, the European Commission was wise enough to say, but we don't want to standardize tariff and payment itself, and we don't want to standardize all these 27 data categories in a non-coordinated way. No, we divide the ecosystem in a few parts that are functionally well identifiable. We have the public transport domain, we have the air travel domain, we have the rail travel domain, which is partly overlapping with the public transport, of course, and we have the road traffic and travel domain. And this road traffic and travel domain is addressed by DATEX II. And for the location, we need some commonalities where basically the reference is made to Inspire. And the other standards are TAP TSI, Transmodal NetX, and some IATA specific standards for the air domain. As you can see, we want to cover, the standards cover a wider scope than the rows of the underlying data categories from the delegated regulations. And that is because the data don't cover all data categories which are, or data types which are relevant in the ITS ecosystem. So the standards are even wider than the NAP requirements. And within each standard, we distinct also on functional level. And here you see also that there are overlaps. If you address parking in DATEX II and you use DATEX II to provide the traffic, the parking availability, and you start doing roadworks, it might be that you're affecting the parking availability. So if you include that information in your roadwork data provision, it is key that this is aligned and fits with the other publications of parking information, which tend to come from a different source. And based on that, it is really important that you talk the same language and use the same standard, even in this case, to identify which parkings are affected by your roadworks. All this is in a standard, a set of standards. And I'm going to click quite quickly through this presentation, or this slide, because this is the buildup of our standard, and it all starts with a methodology, the rules of play, how we construct the standards. Then we have some issues or topics that are in common. Location referencing is the most important one. DATEX II doesn't have an own location referencing system, and there's no need for that. We have a lot of other location referencing standards available in the ecosystem which are used and which can be reused in DATEX. An interesting thing to mention is that what you see in the top is the high precision location referencing GNSS data structure, which is about Galileo. And we are making, we've recently developed an extension to support the Galileo data provision in a very highly detailed manner. And this will be addressed in one of the webinars that will be available next year. Then we have a lot of common data elements. Vehicles, how you characterize a vehicle, that's relevant in all parts. But also time validity and other features that are in common, like units and expressions of date and time. Then we have the subdomains, the functional subdomains, which are addressing the road traffic information in a traditional way, and very recently added the TMP plan and the traffic light state, green phase status data. These are developed not in the DATEX II domain, the PSA, but outside of it, and we are adopting them now, and we will refactor them that they really comply with the methodology for the long term. Then we have some parts that are under construction and will become available early next year. And oh, there is one click more, but that's the energy traffic regulations and the facilities. And facilities is also a kind of common, because the way you can pay in some places is also relevant for parking and for energy, and might even be related to the traffic regulations when we talk about tolling or congestion charging. This all leads to a data dictionary, and you remember from my beginning, we have semantics and we have a data dictionary. That's an export of the details in the different parts, and this is all standardized in CEN in part 16157. And then we have the exchange, how you transfer this data. And if you want to do traffic management, then you reuse a lot of the elements above. But traffic management and joint traffic management is especially about requesting services. I want to switch. I want you to switch your VMS, or we need to divert traffic from this road link. How can you contribute to that? And this is standardized in a joint working group, CEN and ISO, and has a set of its own standards. Well, this is all standards, and for the users, the standards are fine, but in the end, it's only a tool, and they need the information how to use the tool. And we've created the DATEX II Academy for that. And it addresses 3, and to be honestly, we will have 4 levels, because we will also address the management layer, which will be level 0. There's no coincidence with the layer, the numbering. And in the DATEX II Academy, you find the guidance, the guides, the more detailed explanations of how to apply DATEX II in your domain. If we look at the developments that are coming to us, then you see that traffic is mingling. The road networks are growing, and the traveler is not only on the motorways. He doesn't have to be on the motorway. At least it's not his destination. Motorway is only a tool to get from A to B in the most efficient way, usually. But people want to travel to specific destinations, and especially the urban context is a very relevant one in traffic management and traffic optimization. And one of the developments that we see is the let me go back because I clicked too fast. Apologies for that. Is the social crowd traffic information collection. Crowd services and like Vries and nowadays the other road navigation services also provide this kind of services to their end user, that they can report and inform each other about traffic situations. And this data is now also coming to the traffic management centers because it's a very valuable way of data collection. But that's only one way. We also have now the vehicle that starts to communicate. This communication, the CITS layer, is also going to communicate with the roadside. And that gives us additional challenges there as well. The automated vehicle, this is a very famous American brand that offers, to some extent already, automated driving. But in the very near future, this will grow tremendously. And this is a manned vehicle, but we will have robots on the road probably, so unmanned vehicles. And they have to know how to behave on this road as well, if they are allowed on a certain stretch of road. And if you bring all this together, you see that you get a very complex ecosystem of communication and data exchanges. And we've said that before, this needs alignment, because where we have in the real world the opportunity to say, so give some additional information, stop, it's really self-explanatory of stop, you have to stop. But the sign in with the circle is also a stop sign. It has the same meaning as the squared sign in the other pictures. It's a Chinese sign having the same meaning, but we don't understand it. And that's a challenge in the real world. But if we are not managing this properly, this is going to be a challenge in the digitalized traffic information and traffic management domain as well. And that's going to cause real problems with accidents and incidents and endangering the behavior of our drivers. So we need to standardize, and this use standards. And a standard is no more and no less than the reflection of the will to cooperate. If you look at this picture, you see the bulbs which show an actor in the domain, and you see all the lines. And if each actor is receiving asynchronous and different interfaces in terms of information models and location referencing standards, you see, well, if you can count them very quickly, you see 65 interchanges. And that's not manageable. That's going to become a mess. And it's a mess like this. This is a real world mess, but in the digital ecosystem, we have to avoid this as well. And don't be fooled by the idea that artificial intelligence or big data or computing power will solve this. If we use different meanings for specific attributes of specific things, and we don't, then we create the risk that we don't understand each other anymore. And especially now I'm looking at the public authorities, especially the public authorities have the responsibility to be reliable and transparent in their information provision. And if you're talking a different language than your neighbor, and your neighbor could even be your next door neighbor, you're living on the same street or just around the corner because he's operating the other road, then you're not contributing to an efficient and usable, guaranteed, interoperable ecosystem. So why DATEX II? DATEX II is the EU information model for road traffic and travel information and management. And we also support some technologies, but our main aim is to provide a coherent information model for all the domains and subdomains that we support. And we do this based on process requirements that come from you, the user community. And it might be that you cannot find the support of what you need, but we are open to collect your requirements and always willing to include things or develop additional stuff and bring that to the standardization level. We provide a set of standards that has an harmonized and aligned content in a coherent ecosystem of traffic and travel and information and management standards. And like Stephanie Leonard from TomTom said this morning, we need to harmonize the standards. There are good reasons to have a variety of standards for the different services. There could be technical constraints, there could be service-specific constraints, but we will, DATEX II manages that this is aligned with the relevant standards in the environment. And this specific task needs to be done on the European level. And the size of your city or your country doesn't matter. It's too small to do this on your own. So we need to collaborate there and to have one voice, one language to talk to the large players that are active in our domain. And on top of that, we have and maintain actively, that's one of the concerns of the organization, a growing and rejuvenating international pool of experts. Most countries are represented in the DATEX II organization, and they have on different levels with different expertise, but jointly we have a pool of experts that is very well capable of managing the full scope of the DATEX II standards. And that's an asset that is available to you, to all of you. And you are openly invited to participate in that. And one of the last developments I want to share with you is that the current DATEX II organization is very well aware that it is dominated by road operators. And that's not a lasting situation for the governance and the acceptance of the DATEX II standard. So we are now exploring a governance model that will give a voice to all relevant stakeholder communities in the user environment of DATEX II. And we will launch that model in 2021. And then the communities will be invited to participate in the further development of this governance model, because we want to create a joint experience and a joint ownership of DATEX II.